The National Congress National Executive Committee has concluded its three-day meeting and they're now briefing the media, and we cross to Cape Town right now.
It has the NEC to give substance and concrete expression to the concept of the new dawn in the context of 54th National Conference resolution, including commitments in the January 8 statement and the State of the Nation address on an urgent national plan of economic recovery, tackling youth unemployment and increasing investments in the real economy, and the unification of all South Africans regardless of race and gender around a shared vision of radical socio-economic transformation. And the NEC further reflected on the centenary celebrations of Comrade Nelson Mandela and Comrade Albertina Sisulu, and how to most effectively mobilize all South Africans and international community to honor these giants of our liberation movement, including consideration of renaming national facilities after these icons. Moreover, the ANC may use other national days to educate new generations about our history, our heritage, and the contemporary tasks and responsibilities we all have as South Africans. On initiatives geared towards the economic recovery, the NEC welcomed the decision by Moody Investor Service to confirm South Africa's credit rating at investment grade and to change our outlook from negative to stable. We further welcome the imminent launch of the Youth Employment Service this coming week. This initiative is a partnership between government and the private sector and aims to see 1 million young South Africans being offered paid work experience over the next 3 years. The NEC noted the anticipated delays in the implementation of the national minimum wage and called on Parliament to fast-track the legislative process, ensuring that it is as rigorous as inclusive as possible. And consultations with organized labor should continue in order to ensure that the process is properly managed. And the NEC further called on government to accelerate the review, because there's been a lot of noise, accelerate the review of the list of VAT exempted items as part of the efforts to mitigate against the adverse effects of the increase on the VAT rate, as it has been raised by civil organizations, the trade unions, and society in general. As mandated by the 54th National Conference, the NEC recommitted itself to continue the campaign to restore the integrity and dignity of the state and of the ANC as an organization, and further that the fight against all manifestations of corruption and state capture should be intensified. The NEC appreciate that in the context of the campaign, some members and leaders of the movement may find themselves called to account by law enforcement agencies, the legislatures, and Judicial Commission of Inquiry dealing with the matter of state capture. But the ANC wishes to reiterate and emphasize this point. The ANC wishes to reiterate its principal approach that persons so implicated should be presumed innocent until and unless proven otherwise, which is a universal principle. Individual members of the ANC and society have the right to express their sympathy and solidarity with the affected persons in their individual capacity, and not through any structure of the movement. And members involved in such actions are discouraged. They can participate and support anybody, but encourage them from displaying ANC paraphernalia and thus create a false impression that the ANC as an organization identifies or approves the misdemeanors of which any member or leader may be accused of. in welcoming the concerted efforts of the executive led by the President as well as the legislatures to put the said chapter of systematic corruption and state capture behind us, we wish to emphasize that cadres of the movement, wherever they may be deployed, should see it as their responsibility to cooperate with these efforts and not to seek to obstruct legitimate actions to eliminate these scourges, whilst we recognize that they are innocent until proven otherwise. And the NEC has further directed the NWC, the officials and the NWC, to finalize terms of reference as well as setting up of the Interim Integrity Commission and to report in the next NEC in May. And on discipline, because we have said as we renew our organization, the NEC resolved as part of the implementation of the resolutions of the 54th National Conference, we should conduct a review of the conference itself and deal decisively with remnants of divisions in a very systematic way. This must include dismantling pre-conference lobby groups and engaging all our structures around unity of purpose and action. And all ANC caucuses across legislatures and municipalities are expected to submit to greater cohesion and maximum discipline, including asserting and defending the hegemony of the African National Congress. The NEC has directed all its structures and all its deployees to act decisively against instances that openly undermine the unity of the movement and immediately whip into line deployed cadres who openly advance divisive counter-revolutionary agenda to overthrow ANC administration by aligning themselves with frivolous motions of no confidence from the opposition against their fellow ANC deployees. The ANC NEC, through its full-time election machinery, has observed that divisive instances undermine public confidence and project the ANC as a movement that is at war with itself. And the ANC has an open-door policy and sufficient platforms to allow all its cadres to ventilate and find common ground, and that's why we have the National Dispute Resolution Committee. On the general elections, the ANC in the process of preparing its structures to participate fully in all aspects that lead to the success of the next general elections. The ANC reiterates its call to first voters, youth in particular, to register, and for those who are registered to check and confirm their registration details, including residential addresses, and that the key focus area for the next general election should be an inclusive voters' roll as set out in our Constitution. And the ANC will therefore engage IEC and Home Affairs through the Party Liaison Committee members to intensify registration of new voters and the verification of all details on the voters' roll over the next 3 months. The review instruments for ANC public representatives, MPs and MPLs, and members of the executive, ministers, deputy ministers, and premiers have now been finalized. We will evaluate all those public representatives. And the NEC also adopted the list guidelines for selection of public representatives for the coming elections, and the branches will start nominations immediately we open the nomination processes. And therefore the list committee has been established, which will be chaired by the Secretary General, and we'll have representatives from the alliance structures, the leagues, and from our veterans. The NEC has ratified the decision, because you must remember that the decision to appoint or elect premiers is the prerogative of the entire National Executive Committee. But the NWC took this decision because of technicalities which we needed to speed up before the NEC. The NEC has ratified the decision to elect Comrades Refilwe Mtsweni and Sisi Ntombela as premiers of Mpumalanga and the Free State, respectively. The Free State Premier will be taking oath on Tuesday. This decision gives effect to the ANC intention to build a non-sexist society and ensure that women continue to occupy position of responsibility in all areas of endeavor. And that's why from this coming week you'll see the Secretary General full-time, because I've now resigned as a member of the Free State Legislature. On provincial conferences, the ANC has resolved that a special NEC shall be convened following engagement with all provinces to assess the feasibility of convening regional and provincial conferences ahead of the forthcoming general elections. We want to fully focus our minds on the general elections. So the NEC noted the report of the task team led by Comrades Bundebele into matters relating to the 2017 Eastern Cape Provincial Conference. And a process of engagement with the province has been set up to find political solutions, which will be initiated and led by the SGO. We are dealing with internal matters of the ANC, taking them away from the courts. That's going to be our approach throughout the country. And by now you should be knowing that on the 23rd of March, when the NEC started, the ANC joined the international community in observing the historic 30th anniversary of Kuto Carnival. And this historic encounter since the Battle of Kuto Carnival in 1988. And the Battle of Kuto Carnival was pursued against the apartheid regime, leading to the ultimate defeat of the apartheid forces by the Angolan army, together with the Cuban forces, who collectively deployed over 300,000 troops in the defense of the Republic of Angola. The momentous victory of the Battle of Kuto Carnival against the then South African Defence Force marked a turning point in the struggle for liberation, and it forced apartheid regime to sign the peace accord in 1988 in Angola, Cuba, South Africa, and the United States. The ANC extended the best wishes to the people of Angola, the people of Cuba, and Namibia on the occasion of the 30th anniversary. And the ANC salute cadres of MK, Mkondo Wesizwe, who sacrificed for the advancement of the independence in sovereign Africa. And lastly, on the international front or international developments, the NEC noted and engaged on real international developments, including the historic signing of the African Continental Free Trade, the Kigali Declaration, and the Protocol on Free Movement of People, and ongoing engagement to normalize relations between South Africa and Rwanda, and the hosting of BRICS Summit later this year in July, and the visit to neighboring countries in the region by the President to strengthen relationship as part of the Revolutionary Pilgrimage Program. And the NEC reaffirmed the ANC's solidarity with the struggles, people's struggles of Western Sahara and Palestine. And we have engaged and will be engaging BRICS countries. We'll also be engaged to raise the plight of both Sahrawi and the Palestinian people at the forthcoming United Nations General Assembly. And we have noted the poverty in Somalia as well as the disaster in Lesotho, and the ANC shows its solidarity with our African countries. And I just want to end by saying this is the statement of the National Executive Committee, as we said today.
Thanks, Secretary General. I'm going to open for a round of hands, seeing that this is our first in Cape Town. Just to explain to you the tradition at our media center, journalists are encouraged to just introduce themselves, tell us their names, the media outlet they represent, go ahead with their questions. The floor is now opened. It looks like we'll only do one bite and close. We'll start with yourself, and then we'll all continue like that.
Let me just also say that we have discussed the issue of the land, expropriation of land without compensation, and the ANC is going to have its workshop, and we'll have the National Land Summit to ensure that all stakeholders participate in this land summit.
I'm Leanne Johnson from the NCA. Has the NEC discussed any issues regarding former President Zuma? Which has been in news that he may have to appear in court on the 6th of April with regard to the spy tape saga, and that he had accepted a R1 billion bribe from an abalone businessman in the Western Cape. So have there been any discussions around former President Jacob Zuma and the prosecutions against him?
Okay.
I'm Dennis Kravel from the New Age. Do you have any idea when the election will be held? One. And two, in Parliament this week, the DA attacked the Deputy President. How do you feel about his name being linked to political murders in Mpumalanga?
To what?
Political murders in his province.
Hi. Wait, let me just take the front row so it goes on like that.
I'm Craig Smith from Eyewitness News. I just have a follow-up question to my colleague there with regards to former President Jacob Zuma and the damning allegations, the latest of today. Will the former president still be allowed to participate in the election campaign in KwaZulu-Natal? And then also I would like to ask, did the NEC discuss anything with regards to the financial infrastructure being rebuilt, especially at SARS?
Okay, you can come in and then go on. No, wait. Let him come and then we go.
Hi, I'm Martin Charles from the Cape Argus. We've been getting speculation that there was discussions of an early election. Can you just confirm whether it was discussed and if not? And if it was discussed, can you tell us what the reaction was?
Okay, you can come through.
Is the lady still?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
I have a couple of questions. I just want to find out, sorry, Nasty from ANC 7. I just want to find out if, when will the NGC sit, seeing that, they should have sat about 6 months post the conference. And also just the issue of sanitation in schools in the Eastern Cape, was that discussed? Know that the minister has not appeared before Parliament as yet. I also want to get, a reaction regarding, an announcement that you made in the KZN about, appealing the decision by the Pietermaritzburg High Court. I just want to find out if papers have been filed, and if not, does that now mean that the ANC is satisfied with the ruling of, 17.1 of the ANC's constitution? And then also, just to squeeze in, just an update on, the status of the ANC piece.
Where?
In the Eastern Cape, sorry. Thanks.
Yes, you can go say.
Hi, Paul Vecchiota from Bloomberg. Just on land expropriation, there's a lot of international nervousness around this whole issue, and of course local nervousness. Will the ANC be also engaging on overseas investors and local bodies separately apart from the land summit?
Right. Marianne Norton, Daily Maverick. A couple of questions. In terms of the land summit and the NEC workshop, what are your timeframes? When are you looking to do that? In terms of your list committee and the process with regards to candidates, When will that start? How long will it go on for? And what sort of timeframes are you looking at? Are you looking to complete in line with maybe a February elections? Are you looking to complete in line with maybe an August election? If the ANC had its wish, what is the message that the ANC will give to government with regards to proclaiming an election date? With regards to election readiness, are you confident you will be able to raise sufficient amount of monies? The political party funding bill will go through the National Assembly on Tuesday. What has the TG told the ANC in terms of money that is available? And in terms of the political overview from the President, clearly land reform is a key point. What are you hoping will be the message from the ANC in light that the message with regards to please don't invade lands, or to quote the President, there will be no smash and grab, is already unfolding in various provinces in this country? Thank you.
No, thanks, SG. Over to you.
Well, let me start with that one of the land. As we are saying, we'll have our own ANC alliance structures. We'll have our own land workshop, and later on we'll call a land summit, which will actually involve all stakeholders in the country. And there's no need for any panic, because in this country, land has been expropriated without compensation several times. Maybe we'll give you the history as to how many times, I think 7 instances, where the land has been taken without compensation. Maybe because, and there's never been any problem when the then apartheid government did that. And that's why people still argue that the Constitution of South Africa as it stands does allow, in certain instances, expropriation of land without compensation. We will actually engage almost everybody, including international stakeholders, because whatever we do as the governing party, we do it responsibly. It's in the interest of South Africa and our people. On the question of the early elections, in fact, the election is an item on our standing, is a standing item on our agenda, because when we prepare for elections, you get into a war room. In terms of elections are supposed to be taking place, and the President will proclaim in May 2019. So we are preparing ourselves as the African National Congress to have such general elections. So we have not discussed any early elections. I think the statement is very clear as to what we are actually saying, because you can't enter that debate while you don't have anything. This issue of early elections was raised by the opposition, and I think the ANC has its own time and ways of deciding. So we have just taken a decision where we have discussed elections. We are setting up our election structures. We are reviving them. Those provincial election teams, we have our election team full-time run by Comrade Mbalula. We have a team which is at head office, because we want to have a decisive, overwhelming people of South Africa voting for the ANC. And therefore, that's why we have already started setting up list committees. We have set it up now because we shall have to do a lot of things. And this is one area where, as we go to and decide who goes to parliament, who goes to legislatures, where you have tensions amongst our structures or within our structures. And therefore, we wanted to give our time space. If everything goes well according to our schedule in terms of elections, we want to make sure that by September, October, we have finished with our list processes. And that's why we are cleaning up, and we want to approach our challenges and problems internally. And that's why we are asking our structures to get out of the courts and try and resolve the matters of the ANC internally. As we now by now, you know by now that we have adopted the National Dispute Resolution Committee at the 54th National Conference of the ANC. And therefore, whatever dispute and concerns must be raised with that committee. And this is what the courts have been saying. Deal with your matters, exhaust them internally. And once we have done that, there won't be any need for anybody to go to any court of law. So indeed, we have discussed the Eastern Cape Desbundebele commission report. And as I say, in all provinces, KZN, Free State, Limpopo, all provinces we have said, and we are calling upon our members wherever they are and leaders to understand that we don't want to address our matters in courts. The ANC is a liberation movement, it's a political organization, and people have joined it voluntarily, and it must remain like that, and its members must resolve their challenges internally. And therefore, we are going to deal with the Eastern Cape issues politically. As Comrade Pule has said, the SGO, working together with officials and NWC, we will deal with that process of healing and making sure that comrades and concerns and complainants work together so that our focus is on elections. No, we have not discussed any president, former President Zuma. We have just discussed that in terms of our values and the integrity and the credibility of the ANC, we are making a plea to all members of the ANC to behave and act in a particular way which is in line with the values and traditions and culture of the African National Congress. Well, in terms of issues of sanitations around the Eastern Cape, a child dying there and all that, I think we have called to all our public representatives and our structures to make sure that we don't have such incidents. We must work together and make sure that we deliver quality services to our people. So the Minister of Basic Education and government, as well as the President, have entered the space. We'll want to see our schools with the necessary facilities so that we deal with any other issue. Issues like life esidimeni, we don't want to see the repeat of such things. So we have a rapid response team, both in government and in the ANC, to look at the challenges facing the people of South Africa in general and make sure that we deal with those issues and concerns within our communities. So I've talked about the former President Zuma. We haven't discussed anything like that, and the last question, I think, is around, we have agreed that former presidents and we will be engaging, as well as former Secretary General Kgalema Motlanthe, must be engaged in our programs. We will find ways and methods of deploying them and defining what role they can actually play to assist in renewing the African National Congress and rebuilding its structures. They have a vast experience, and I'm sure they can be utilized in many instances. Well, the DA has been quiet about all these matters. Now that Comrade Mabuza becomes the deputy president of the country, they are now raising all these matters. He has been premier for many years. He has been there, and that's why we say any person is innocent until proven otherwise. We are in that period of politicking because it's a period as we advance to the general elections. So a lot of allegations and rumors will be leveled against the leadership of the African National Congress as part of trying to erode and narrow its base. So we won't fall into that trap. We are going to stay focused as the African National Congress. And allegations are allegations, and I'm sure Deputy President Mabuza has said to the DA in Parliament, if you have anything and any information, you know where the law enforcers are. If you want to lay criminal charges, lay charges so that the law enforcement agencies investigate whatever you say, so that we don't all the time try and tarnish the image of leaders. And when there are no cases against them, and when they are proven innocent, nobody comes back and says sorry for tarnishing your image as the leader of the African National Congress. So KZN, we're treating it the same. We have said, all of us, and that's why the special NEC to look at those provinces and regions which will have to go to conferences because we want to focus on elections. So KZN is on track. The unity of the movement is coming up because they understand this is the year of unity and renewal. The unity of the ANC in the province of the Free State is coming. The unity of the province in the province of Eastern Cape, and generally all over our provinces. I think our emphasis is unity and renewal, and time to focus all our energies on the election and setting up election structures. That's what we are doing now. We haven't discussed any financial infrastructure at SABC. We have noted the suspension of the commissioner. I think those were the questions which you posed. I've tried by all means to. Is the money available for elections? Of course, on Tuesday, Parliament will be passing that bill of political party funding, and the money question, of course, the ANC, like any other party, has its own internal processes. It's an internal matter.
Well, thanks. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to take the hands we did not entertain in the first round, and after taking those hands, I'm going to do the obvious and close. If there are any other queries, colleagues are encouraged to file those and send, so that we don't have a question session that doesn't end. Manalisi, you have all asked, so
Follow-ups, please.
can I just request that we try and deal with what is new questions, because I'm imagining if all of them have got follow-ups, SG.
Because I also still have to go to the NEC.
Yes, because the SG must just go there and
the
do the proper bye-byes to the NEC. So let's take you, and then you can just start writing them down. So it could be things that if we don't deal with them now, we also find ways of dealing them. At least we'll still give you the response. Manalisi, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Pule. This question, I can assure you, is very new. The SG, you say you...
New for the first time.
Yes, the NEC didn't deal with the issues around former President Zuma. So, as far as we are concerned, there's no issue on this. People are just crazy.
No, but okay, I'm sorry, but the word crazy is used by you. We must just agree.
Yes, I'm
okay. No, I want you to own it. Say this is the word that. Okay.
I mean, the assumption is that this whole brouhaha around President Zuma is just a crazy thing by South African people.
Okay, Manalisi, fine. I will just allow the two of you because we just appointed 2 female premiers in keeping with that desire. So I will allow NN7 and the Daily Maverick, then we close it.
Thank you, SG. I don't think you answered me on when the NGC will sit. And also, has the ANC filed papers with the Pietermaritzburg High Court following your announcement on the 3rd of January to appeal the decision by that specific court?
And just a very quick one, the question around the date for the National Land Summit. Too early, what are you looking at? And perhaps SG could also clarify the NEC statements, comments with regards to people can support whoever may or may not appear in front of any state capture type inquiries, as long as they don't do so wearing ANC paraphernalia. Could you sketch us the background to that decision that the NEC came to? Thank you.
Okay, it's just the 3 that were allowed. You want to also bring up something? You are covered. Okay, you are also covered. Fine. Okay, SG, this is the 3 last ones, I promise.
Well, we will have the ANC land workshop. I think the date is 20 to 21 of April. So it's just around the corner next month, before we have the National Land Summit of the entire country. Indeed, there was a conference resolution that we must call a NGC to look at various issues which we could not finalize. There is work on progress on this matter because remember, we have so many other things to do. Our focus is on elections, our focus is on the Land Summit, so our focus is on the preparations for BRICS Summit also in July. So this matter will further be engaged. We haven't come with any date and say in June we must have the NGC. We will look at our program and check how realistic things are, because our focus now is on making sure that people of South Africa register and they make sure that they remember that they fought for this right, the right to vote. And that's why we want them to register as many as possible, especially the young people, so that they exercise their right to vote and for whatever party they will actually want to vote for. It's a right which we have fought for, and therefore it is very, very important. We're not saying any. We haven't said anything about. We have noted that the charges has been reinstated against President Jacob Zuma, and we have made a statement, and we are saying to everybody, a person is presumed innocent until and unless proven otherwise in a court of law. That's the universal principle. We're not defending and protecting anything, and I'm sure that's where our statement ended. And as I've said, the NEC has not thoroughly engaged on this matter, except to know that the charges against President Zuma has been reinstated. And we have seen that President Zuma is, as a former and ex-official, is attending the meeting of the NEC.
No. Thanks,
and the background around the issue of You know, when leaders, when anybody is allegedly charged or is charged, people assume that a person is innocent. And some might actually have their own beliefs and stories and think that they have a right cause to support any leader as they so wish. But we are actually then saying people must do so as individuals wherever they are, so that we don't project the African National Congress as if it does support corruption or any other thing. But still emphasize that point that a person is presumed innocent until proven otherwise. You'll remember that, for instance, and our values are not the same as the values of the DA, but you'll remember that Breitenbach was charged, and Breitenbach remained a member of parliament under the DA, which makes a lot of noise by saying, once you are charged, you must resign. But they wanted to presume Breitenbach innocent until proven otherwise by the court of law. And the court of law has cleared Breitenbach. I think the same approach should be taken with any person who is charged with anything. He must be presumed innocent until proven otherwise. That's a universal principle, and I think we must stick to it. We've got Pule Mabe here who was charged, and finally the court of law found him innocent. There was no noise about Pule as not as innocent and all that, but this image was tarnished. Fortunately, he's still here. Yeah. Pule, thank you very much. Have a lovely day and night.
No, thanks, colleagues, and thanks for coming. So there is greater compassion in the ANC analysis, so it's very important that we also cover that point.